Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Guesty virtual event, catering to different travel personas with tech-forward guest experiences after a very challenging and interesting year that we all went through. My name is Vered Raviv Schwartz, and I'm President and COO of Guesty. With me today, we have Lincoln Wheeler and Daniel Ware from Airbnb Experiences. Lincoln is regional lead of North America for Airbnb Experiences, and Daniel is demand program manager for Airbnb Experiences. We have Steve Davis, COO of Operto Guest Technologies. We have Ryan Killeen, general manager of the Annex Hotel. And last but not least, Nick Chen, co-founder of Welcome Box. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. In terms of our agenda, I'll start with some opening remarks about Guesty and some trends we're seeing in the market, followed by presentations of all our panelists, Lincoln, Daniel, Steve, Ryan, and Nick, followed by a panel discussion where we'll discuss the issues raised in the presentations and hopefully have time for Q&A from the audience. So to begin our conversation, the short-term rental ecosystem is undergoing a disruptive moment. And I know a lot of us are looking at 2020 as a horrible year, but actually it has resulted in increased user base with travelers opting for private rentals over hotels. I say sometimes in interview that if prior to COVID, we were the little stepsister of the hotel industry, kind of leveled the playing field during COVID. The reason private rentals are better suited for new patterns and guest expectations are, among other things, the fact that some of them have outdoor space or more spacious apartments in general. They accommodate longer stays. They allow you to get a contact-free and light-touch experience, which is important for guest safety at this time. It creates a great work-from-home environment, and so on and so forth. Several reasons why we've seen new customers and new personas join the short-term rental industry in the past year. And as I've mentioned, as a result, it actually was a catalyst for short-term rentals going mainstream. And of course, one of the pivotal moments was the Airbnb IPO at the end of last year with a 47 billion valuation and about tripling by now. And a lot of analysts and industry thought leaders are talking about the fact that short-term rental is really poised for growth this year above and beyond other sectors of the travel industry. So we do want to mention that we saw a few new travel personas that have emerged last year and we did not encounter in previous years. It was displaced in stranded travelers due to COVID regulations and restrictions. We saw digital nomads become a thing prior to COVID, but we believe that COVID really accelerated that trend of I'm able to work from anywhere, live anywhere. We've also seen cityscapers heading to rural areas because you could work from a place with a beach or a lake or a mountain. Of course, we had quarantines and we had special needs of healthcare workers and frontline workers. We saw families using a lot of short-term rentals because they needed more space, especially when now everybody's working and studying from the same space. And one last trend I want to mention is livestock shoppers. Again, COVID has made it very easy to explore new cities, see if you like it, take an apartment for a month or 2 months and figure out if that's the right environment for you. So all of these new personas is something that short-term rental operators need to cater to in today's environment. And I want to share a very optimistic data point that we've seen for summer bookings. From what we see in the US, currently summer reservation volume in the US is 85% higher than last year. I think that's quite remarkable and means we can all be very optimistic about the future and start preparing for those travelers coming in. And we believe a lot of it would be having a tech-forward guest experience and approach. And some of the things we're seeing in the market that are becoming more important for guests is have those touchless experience. For example, keyless entry systems that allow you to check in and check out without meeting anyone in person. Everything around entertainment in your space. People need to spend more time indoors and are looking for ways to spend time. Digital concierges, again, with that touchless experience thought in mind, smart thermostats, and also virtual tours, travel guides, anything that could digitize the experience of staying in a short-term rental. As I mentioned, property management companies need to be backed by tech more than in the past and are more likely to be successful meeting the rising expectations of customers, especially during COVID and post-COVID. And that's a good opportunity to introduce you to Guesty. We're an end-to-end solution that simplifies the complex operational needs accompanying property management, ranging from a multitude of features, including calendar manager and analytics and demand generation and distribution and so on and so forth. And we have, as part of our top one-stop shop solution, we're integrated with over 100 different endpoint solutions that could help you. And our guests here are part of this ecosystem of marketplace solution that we offer. With that, I'd like to introduce our first guest speakers from Airbnb.
So hello, everyone. Great to meet you virtually. We are delighted to be here, and huge thank you to Guesty for inviting Dan and I to speak. So I am here to discuss what are Airbnb experiences, and then how has the pandemic impacted our business. Little context on me. 4 years ago, I joined Airbnb Experiences after grad school to launch experiences in New York City. At the time, we were live in about 20 markets. Fast forward 2 years, and we were live in about 1,400 markets. Currently, I lead our North America business, and I'm normally based out of Brooklyn, but I'm actually in Mexico City at the moment, so I guess I would qualify as one of those digital nomads that Vera described. So what are Airbnb experiences? Airbnb experiences are one-of-a-kind activities designed and led by locals all over the world. This product is Airbnb's foray into contributing to the end-to-end trip. And we're trying to be much more than just where you sleep at night. So what are the essential ingredients to an Airbnb experience? First off, it needs to be hosted. We are not a ticketing platform. Second, it needs to be interactive. We're trying to do more than tours where you have a guide speaking at you. We want you to be engaged with one another in meaningful ways. And third, it's usually smaller groups. We have some exceptions to this, like a yoga class may have 25 people, an intimate concert may have 60 people, a boat trip may have bigger groups, but in general, they're quite intimate. How do we evaluate quality on these experiences? So we review every single inbound experience by these 3 dimensions. Number 1, expertise. How are you uniquely qualified to host this? Number 2, access. How are you providing access to something that the guests would not be able to find on their own? And number 3, human connection. I can say, having looked at the data for the last 4 years, that the common thread between our top performing experiences are amazing hosts. It's not necessarily the actual activity. Next slide, Dan. So who is hosting? We have new entrepreneurs. I've worked with many hosts who left their former jobs and now do this full time. Small businesses. We have professional hosts on our platform, many of whom were doing this before we came along. And community nonprofits. We have social impact experiences where we charge 0% fee so that they can broaden their message to the world and get people engaged beyond their mission. And who are our guests? Predominantly, they are travelers, but we also have locals booking at an increasingly high rate. I highly recommend experiences for dates. Specific categories like animals, food and drink, entertainment do especially well with locals. And recently, we've seen a lot of groups and teams on our platform because I think people want to come together in a meaningful way right now, and it's hard to find avenues to do so. So how has the pandemic changed our business? First and foremost, we had to be fully focused on safety. We had to navigate lockdowns. We had to be measuring the relative health of different markets and assessing when is the right time to close and reopen. We had all of our hosts across the globe commit to a safety attestation program. So that was a critical step. And if you didn't commit, you're no longer on the platform. Number two, we had to learn from traveler trends. Baird called out many. The most prominent that we've seen is people are traveling domestic and interregional. Interregional would be maybe US to Mexico, US to Canada, but we're not seeing people travel across continents all that often. Rural and nearby destinations, especially within range of major cities, and longer term stays. People are staying in a place for 3+ weeks. I'm in Mexico City for 2 months, so I would qualify for this as well. And people have shifting experiential needs, and this led to the spin up of online experiences, which was a platform that we created in a matter of weeks, and has led to a very meaningful revenue source for many of our former in-person hosts. And it's been especially popular for private groups and teams that are trying to find a way together, to be together. So in short, online experiences is providing connectivity and entertainment during lockdown, and in-person experiences will be back in full force as soon as it is safe. We're already seeing it return in many regions in the world. With that, I'm going to hand off to Dan, who has more specifics on a specific program we're building.
Thanks so much, Lincoln. Hey guys, I'm Dan, super excited to talk to you. And we thought while we were here, we would give you a sneak peek into some of the things we are developing as we go into 2021 to bring our experiences and our homes or stays business together. Hopefully you now have a better idea of what experiences are. And I'm here to show you how we think we can improve your guest stay by offering experiences to your guests. And on top of that, potentially open up a new revenue stream. So how do we do this? We want to bring our communities together. Ultimately, our host community is what makes Airbnb uniquely Airbnb, but we are currently a bit disjointed in our community sometimes, having a stays and an experiences community. So stays being our homes or short-term rentals, and our experiences host community representing our experiences. We know that there are synergies and we know that there are complementary offerings that these hosts have. And our challenge for 2021 is to look at ways that we can bring these two communities together for a mutually beneficial host-to-host collaboration. And these are not the only bits that the stay hosts represent, and same for experiences hosts, but we wanted to pull out some key complementary points. So stay hosts, they're always looking to improve their guest experience. They're always looking for additional revenue options. And if they're going to recommend things to do in their city, then it needs to be easy. An experience host offers high quality magical experiences, so improves the guest experience of a city every time that they host an experience. And they're looking for additional ways to grow their demand. So we're taking a bet in 2021 that by empowering our host communities to work together through the kind of technological solutions that we can offer, we can help our hosts to grow their businesses through 2021 and onwards. We began with listening to our hosts to better understand, and by hosts, I always speak about our stays and experiences hosts, to better understand what the host needs are. Like, what would hosts need? What would hosts want, and how can we help you to improve guest experience? We then began to look at what our guests wanted too, and one of the best ways to do that is to look at the guest reviews. I don't expect all of you to read through these reviews as they're pretty heavy, but I took some time today just to pull out a couple of reviews that would speak the kind of language that we're looking to get across in this presentation. So the reviews from Michelle, from Eugene, from Tom, all of these reviews show that they've received recommendations from their hosts. So hosts are already recommending things to do in their city, whether that's a restaurant, whether that is an activity or a tour. The review from Liz says kind of the opposite story. Liz had a good time in her home, but she was missing some additional amenities and recommendations. The three from Michelle, Eugene, and Tom that you see are 5-star reviews. And from Liz, we're looking at a 4-star review that by making recommendations and personalized recommendations could have been a 5-star review. So what have we found out? We found out that hosts want to improve guest experience. Experience hosts can offer and bridge that gap to help improve guest experience over their trip. And guests love to receive personal recommendations from their hosts. So what are we looking to do through Q1 and Q2? We're looking at ways to pilot experiences recommendations to your guests. So making it easy for you to recommend our experiences product to your guest and fill that gap of what should I do in the city once I arrive. I've broken the guest flow down into 3 simple steps. I appreciate it's way more complicated than this, but just to make it simple for the sake of the presentation. So at the guest booking stage, the plan for us and the challenge that we have is to find automated opportunities to recommend. Like, how can we make this very easy and flow very simply at the recommendation point? How can we provide our hosts with the education they need and pre-built lists of what to recommend to their guests based on guest profile? And finally, providing free experiences to our hosts. So this is kind of the pre-booking or booking stage. We want our hosts to fully understand our product before they recommend it. As we move to the guest check-in stage, we know this needs to be easy. If hosts are going to recommend our experiences product, it should be 1 click or less. And we should also find ways to monetize collateral. So think of the guidebooks that you provide to your guests. We should find ways to monetize. And we should also be finding the experiences that best fit a guest profile. Final stage, probably the most important stage for hosts, is the guest review stage. We know that you would want to track your recommendations, and we know that you'd want to track what happens if you're recommending experiences, and also to earn additional benefits like revenue share or additional profile benefits. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, Daniel and Lincoln, for this. We'll continue now with Operto.
Thanks so much, Vered. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to join you for this great event, and thank you to Guesty for putting it on, and to all the other the speakers for some amazing presentations which we're about to see. So Operto is a property automation platform that basically enables a technology-forward stay for the guest. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was really around how you seamlessly integrate technology into experience. So not technology for technology's sake, but really about how are shifting consumer demands meant driving technology, and then what's the best sort of way to roll it out once you've decided that this is something that we need to take seriously, because a lot of the timelines around technology have been brought forward, obviously, because of COVID. So we all want to deliver some technology that that really makes an impact on our business. I think over the last few years, we can all agree that the catchword is being seamless. So how do you provide a seamless experience from the moment that your guest completes their booking online to the time that they're leaving a review, hopefully a positive one, and how do you make that as frictionless as possible for the guest, so that it follows the logical steps, that there's no hiccups, that you're removing as much friction as you can, and really providing that bespoke experience for the guest. And I think now with COVID, what we've seen is that this has obviously been accelerated, but also seamless has really become more around contactless. So allowing the guest to really dictate, am I going to engage with the host, or am I going to not engage with the host? And that could be any variety of different accommodation types, but it's putting that power into the guest's hands, and then also giving the host the opportunity to say, okay, listen, these are some of the things that you want to be doing while you're staying with us, whether they're amenities or things that are outside of the property, or other monetization opportunities, because those are real. And I think above and beyond, we all know this, is that the number one concern that's out there, and I've seen a variety of different polls and research reports, that safety is a primary concern as we sort of return to some sort of normalcy. I saw this yesterday on MSNBC, and it was this really amazing stat saying, there's just this skyrocketing of bookings that's happening right now, and I'm sure that Guesty is seeing the same, and this huge surge in the UK in particular, because everyone's sort of feeling that upbeat mood that, maybe we're going to return to some sense of normal this year. All that triggers to me is sort of the technology guy is saying, oh my goodness, is this what we're kind of returning to? Packed lobbies, front desks that are overwhelmed, maybe, and it could be even for smaller operations where you just have too many people in contact with each other, and people really shying away from that experience, especially when someone's checking in. That's their first opportunity to engage with you, and for you to sort of set the bar, and also set the experience on the right direction. So you have this sort of old school way of looking at it, and then the next presenter, Ryan, who's going to be following me, you look at something like the Annex in Toronto, which is, this is the front desk, right? So you've got, you walk in the front door and it's just beautiful. It's minimalistic. The technology just works. It just seamlessly allows you to check in, start to engage with the hotel and all of its amenities. And so that is a really special experience. And I know that they're fairly tech forward, but I think that that's where we're going to start to see a shift. And I'm sure that Ryan will continue on and tell you all about that later on. Because at the end of the day, what we feel is really important is that it's not about technology, but it's technology for technology's sake. It's actually about using technology in a very smart way to deliver an amazing guest experience. Because really what technology is not meant to do is drive transactional interaction. It's really meant to drive experiential interaction. And I think that is the key. It's not about how much tech talks to the other tech and how tech forward you are. It's like, can you put a system in place where the technology slips into the background and just works? But how do you implement it? And this is always something that we struggle with our clients. There's always this run. Everyone goes off to Google and starts looking at different solutions and providers and different ways of tying it all together. And that's really where the expertise comes in around working with a provider who knows all the different pieces and really putting together a solution that is bespoke for you. So there's 6 steps just to cover quickly with you. The first one is the diagnosis of the problem, the buy-in stage, assembling internal champions and technology squad, mapping out the customer journey, because the customer journey in 2019 looks completely different from the customer journey in 2021. The training element, and then obviously setting benchmarks and making sure that what you have put into your property is actually working for you, and that you can measure success in an objective way. We see this all the time, and this is not the way to do it. Trying to ram a square peg into a round hole. Unfortunately, this is sometimes the default and one that we end up picking up the pieces a lot of the time. But again, just follow along, and this is really what we recommend to our customers. So the first thing is really about diagnosis. So making sure that you're diagnosing the real problem that you're trying to solve, making sure that you understand all the friction points that are on your property, the commonalities between those things, and really trying to develop a real good picture before you start to reach out to any vendors or put any sort of action plan together. This is really an important part of making sure that you're on the right path, is the diagnosis stage. The next one is the securing the buy-in. And for smaller properties or for single owners, it's that decision maker is you. But where you do have teams that are touching multiple parts of a business, marketing, sales, operations, whatever, it's really important that as you start to move down this technology path, that you do secure that buy-in from decision makers. So identifying who the stakeholders are, making sure that they're helping you to roll this out, because the tech is cool, but the tech doesn't work if people don't understand it, people aren't bought into it, and people don't understand the long-term value of having it and the efficiencies that it drives. And you want your squad, right? You want to make sure you've got your champions, the people who are going to, again, tell their teams, monitor success, feedback loops to the providers, making sure that everything's working as it should. And really that flow of information is key, especially in the first year or two, because you do have a lot of history. This is always the way we've done it, and now you're sort of moving to a new paradigm shift, and there are going to be gaps. And so just assembling that technology team to making sure that everything flows is what you want to be doing. The customer journey. So before I was talking about everything from the moment when you book to the moment you leave your review, that is the customer journey. Well, the customer journey now is different. We are seeing different traveling personas, to Barrett's earlier point, and catering to those is really important. So map that out, understand it, and then really understand at which point does technology make sense to remove friction and to ensure that we have a bespoke experience that people can have and really have a positive one while they're there. because at the end of the day, rolling out technology, as much as we think it's an easy process, it's actually quite difficult. And so stick with it. It's going to take a bit of effort from everyone. Training, this is always the step that people miss. Don't put in the tech unless you're willing to do the training. The training it's an ongoing process. You have different types of learners, visual, you have audio learners, you have people engaging in different ways. So just be sure you understand that is the way it works, and that you're going to need to train your people on the new systems, on the new technology, and make sure that everyone understands on a base level why the business is doing it and how they can actually best perform under the new paradigm that you're now introducing. And then lastly is data. So set benchmarks, make sure again you know what the ROI is on the tech, making sure that you understand what you're looking for and you can objectively measure against it. Lastly, these are 3 things I would just throw out there. It's never going to be perfect. Launch it, fine tune it again, and then expect hiccups because they always happen. And the last thing, with those hiccups comes partnership. Pick a great partner, because technology is still fairly nascent. As far as technology forward as we think we are, especially on the IoT side and the property automation side, it's still new stuff. So make sure that you've got a partner that's willing to wake up at 2 a.m. when the power goes out in Houston and the hotel goes down and no one can get into the rooms because you can't send unlock codes to the doors or whatever it might be. There's a whole variety of use cases where technology won't work. So it's important that you have a partner, because you will need them at some point. So what's our approach? We are trying to take the technology out of the situation and put it in the background, make it just work, and connecting guests, owners, so whether that's your management team or the general manager, or the teams that actually service the property, housekeeping, maintenance, etc., and using technology as a means of tying together those 3 aspects: guests, owners, and teams. Because if you get that triangle correct, what's going to happen is you will by its very nature, you will feed a better guest experience. The guests can engage with your property as they want to. They can really have that, again, bespoke opportunity and experience, and then you'll get that word of mouth as well. So really important that you understand that technology enables an ecosystem of communication, and that's really what we try to do as a business, is really understand what does that ecosystem look like for you as an operator. I'll finish there. I don't want to take too much time. I know we're under a bit of a time constraint, but if it sounds interesting, I'd love to hear from you. First couple of months around the house, if you're looking to make the jump into a technology world, please reach out. Steve Davis, the CEO at Operto. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Steve, for the enlightening presentation.
You bet.
And I think it was a great segue for Ryan's presentation about the Annex Hotel. Ryan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Barrett and Guesty, for having us on the panel today with our fellow speakers. Hello to everyone tuning in from wherever you are in the world. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about the different personas and guests that we've been able to host here at the Annex Hotel via a high-tech, low-touch offering, and how we've been able to successfully do so via technology while kind of delivering an unrivaled guest experience. So I promise I will not read word for word off every slide, but without further ado, just to kind of introduce you to the Annex. The Annex is a very new product. We are 3 years old, and when we were built, we were set up for the future. What that means is, by default, when the last 12 months kind of ensued, we were actually set up for success solely based on the technology that we have in-house and the operation being so high-tech, low-touch. So different from other hospitality companies, we don't build traditional hotels. We identify buildings in emerging locations and use modern technology to strategically cut costs and enhance the guest experience. We pass on any savings to our customers and find creative ways to make money on things that aren't rooms. We are the face of modern hospitality. So one thing I want to touch on there, as Steve mentioned, is technology is not meant to replace the guest experience or become this overly robotic kind of offering. it's really to eliminate task-oriented work, pass those savings on to your guests, and therefore create a seamless, again, buzzword, as Steve used, offering that makes sense in this day and age. And it's incorporating the likes of Operto and Airbnb experiences and looking at what Nick has to do with Welcome Box. So we'll get into all of that, but this is the kind of profile. These are the profiles that we built out of the gate when we were building this brand that we really thought we would tailor towards. And we've hosted all of these different types of guests since day one and still to this day. But a really unique thing that took place over the last 12 months was just how wide-ranging of a demographic we were able to service based on our use of technology. So I'll give you a couple of specific examples. At the beginning of the pandemic, we very quickly pivoted to how can we help and how can we leverage our product to fit the needs of those who need accommodation right now. And in May of 2020, we sponsored the costs of our own rooms to host frontline healthcare workers at no cost to them. And what was unique about this is that we were able to fully service the guests, their needs, requests, whatever it may be, 100% remote in a time that was very uncomfortable for everyone when it came to physically interacting with people. So I'll walk through the guest journey and how we were able to do that. And again, accommodation is not going anywhere. We're not doing anything that's reinventing the wheel, but we're really just modernizing the experience from the booking flow or the booking process to checkout. So with the healthcare workers specifically, we didn't actually have to pivot our operations. We provided what we do to all of our guests, which is a seamless online booking experience, whether you're booking direct on one of the OTAs, Airbnb, Instagram, or Facebook. You go on. When you're checking in ahead of time, you're submitting a clear image of your ID, uploading a selfie, and in turn, that gives you access to your room ahead of time. So when you show up, there's no real learning curve. You're not walking to a front desk or standing in line and waiting. You have your access information. You show up to the building, you're in, it's secure to those who have reservations. You're up to your room and you're straight in. So out of the gate, you've eliminated a lot of kind of unnecessary steps. During our stay, I think it's important to note that just because we're technology driven and leverage digital platforms doesn't mean that we're not all about the guest experience. Our host team is mandated to create a minimum of one moment of delight for each guest during their stay. So for some, that could be something as simple as Welcome Box when they arrive to their room. It's that personalized kind of thought that was put into it. It may be something as simple as a welcome bar or a welcome card in their chocolate bar. It doesn't have to be anything over the top, but it's reminding guests that there is people involved with the operation, despite technology being the tool that powers it. Things like our Annex survival guide give you kind of the best places to go eat, drink, shop in the city. And as we continue to kind of double down on technology and leverage, you start to drive your guests to things like Airbnb experiences so that you're putting the best equipped tools in your guests' hands to have the best experience possible. What this does is increases your revenue. It's going to result in higher return just based on repeat business. You're going to get great ratings, and all of us on this panel and call know exactly what that equates to. I think one of the unique things that we offer here at the Annex Hotel is how guests get help. So despite the fact that we don't have a front desk or a traditional concierge service, we've eliminated the clunky hotel phone in the room where you're clicking zero, speaking to an operator, and kind of getting bounced around. Every one of us here, I would hope, has a smartphone, and we're allowing you to use a piece of technology that you're already familiar with to interact with our team. So when you're messaging or have questions, looking for recommendations, we're responding in real time, and that feels very personal. You can pick up and call too, 24/7. So my last point there is that, again, technology is not here to replace the guest experience. At the Annex, it's here to enhance that guest experience and expedite some of the processes that traditionally take away from people enjoying themselves. Looking at things like self-serve closet technology, where if someone requests extra towels or whatnot, there's not a 15-minute wait for someone to come up to that door and deliver something. They're able to go to the self-serve closet and, again, do that in real time very quickly. To date, 80% of our bookings have been done direct and non-OTA, and that's kind of validating to our strategies of just providing a seamless experience. what I want to showcase too is that just because something is technology powered doesn't mean you have to sacrifice other aspects of the operation. And I think most importantly in hospitality, that experience aspect. So our sample size is obviously small in comparison to the rest of the names on this chart, but nonetheless, achieving an NPS, so Net Promoter Score of 81 is extremely difficult to do. And I think it's a testament to how much people enjoy the type of service that we're offering, and many other accommodation providers are going to kind of adopt these types of technologies to further enhance their experience, their own operations to achieve ultimately two sides of the coin. One, having an incredible product, and two, being able to increase your revenue and decrease operating expenses. So that's an introduction to the Annex Hotel. We have plans to expand this business model internationally. We think it's been validated, and we are called a hotel, but that's really not how I see our product. We are a modern accommodation provider, and we're going to continue to double down on the technology that we already have in-house. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. And last but not least, we'll hear from Nick Chen about Welcome Box.
Thanks, Vered and the entire Guesty team for having me on. And also great presentations from everybody else. Definitely learned a lot. To tell you a little bit about Welcome Box, I'm one of the co-founders. We started our business about 2.5 years ago, and our mission throughout has always been to elevate moments across the guest experience while staying at hotels, short-term rentals, and across the real estate industry. And this really started for us with, what's on the screen now with a box. And what we did was basically through a lot of research and kind of focus groups and, our own experiences, really honed in on what people felt that they really enjoyed to be welcomed with when they entered a unit. And for us, this was a mixture of, really tasty, savory, sweet, healthy treats when it came to, sort of snacks and kind of amenities for people to enjoy, as well as, single serve, single use, bathroom amenities, high end and nice sort of luxurious things for people to enjoy while they were taking their stay. And then the final piece for us was to put in information about the unit. So Wi-Fi information, checkout times, check-in times. So it kind of acted as a, kind of one-stop shop for, guest experience upon welcoming them to the unit. As far as what we've kind of experienced and seen with, with COVID coming on and the pandemic is, and engaging, entertaining, and retaining guests has definitely gotten more challenging. And I think there's a variety of reasons for that. Definitely a lack of, kind of the human touch, a lack of activities to do outside of the home has made, traveling in general more of a difficult situation for people. Everybody has kind of a different risk profile when it comes to what they're willing to do, what they're willing to engage in. And so as a result of that, we've kind of modeled our business and changed our business a little bit to try to reflect those needs and those changing dynamics. So, first of all, what we've found is some very good news is 95% of people want to travel in the next 15 months. So I think there's a ton of pent up demand in terms of people wanting to enjoy something that they haven't been able to do for the past, 6 to 12 months now. And, one of the things we've seen that, I think will be shifting back again, but 80% of people right now are traveling by car and to places that focus on outdoor activities. And sort of a second follow on to that is that 67% of guests reported spending more time in their rental or hotel during the pandemic. And I think that, probably is not surprising to see, but it's something that we really kind of took to heart on our side in terms of, what could we do to better serve these changing dynamics? And, with that involved, what we, kind of came up with is this goal to make guests feel safe without losing that human element. And I think that's really important because, there's sort of a cold feeling if you're just going somewhere, you're sitting in your, unit and your stay is just, sort of an isolation experience. And so we felt that, it's really important to do everything that we can as, people in the hospitality industry to make people feel comfortable, but also not feel alone. And, with that, we have kind of expanded our offering, you could say, and, first starting with the contents that we're using in our welcome box. So if you go to our website, it's getwelcomebox.com, you'll see sort of some of the standard welcome boxes that we offer. And we've added into that some sort of safety items to it, which I think, from our feedback, we've seen people, really respond well to. So we've included antiseptic wipes, some face masks, disposable surgical masks, hand sanitizer to go along with some of the snacks and treats that we offer. And then secondly, we've also sort of used our infrastructure when it comes to, being really good at putting together great physical experiences and sort of blending that into the digital and the virtual as well. So we also partner with a large network of experts across different industries. So, be it painting classes or cooking classes or cocktail hours, with live talent coming on to kind of expand those experiences. We're combining that with our physical sort of infrastructure of being able to ship boxes both across the US and also to some international locations. So, really what this means is if a guest comes in and, prior to their stay, they want to, engage in a happy hour, if they're coming in on a Friday, we will actually go ahead and send that cocktail box out in advance so that it arrives and people can engage in that cocktail class with a mixologist who will come on and sort of teach them how to make the drink. And the cool part about this is everything they need to make that drink will be included in that kit, which is an optional add-on. If they wanted to go out and purchase their own items to make something, they would certainly be able to. But if they wanted the convenience of just arriving and all of these experiences to be able to happen in the home where people have been spending more time, now more than ever, we're able to kind of drop ship everywhere across the US. And then, I think what we've found always with our business model is that you kind of get more by giving more. And, from all of these types of experiences to sort of the standard, what we call as kind of the table stakes is providing these basic amenities to people and giving them an awesome kind of welcoming experience. We also do, customized branded boxes. So, if you're, the Annex Hotel, for example, if they were going to have a branded Annex box whenever someone entered the hotel, we can design that experience to be completely customized. And, that's another thing that we've found to be a big kind of important piece for guests is that they feel that they're being taken care of and there's a personalized kind of touch to it. And so from that standpoint, we, really put a lot of emphasis on being able to curate the items that would go into a box or go into an experience, and do it in a very, sort of high level and to a very specific nature. So with that in mind, we can really put whatever types of items would make sense for the stay. If it's a calming retreat, maybe there's a couple month subscription to Calm, the meditation app, which is one of our partners. Or if, as I mentioned, it's, sort of a more fun bachelor party type experience, then maybe it's a box that has something about, a cocktail hour or a wine tasting or something along those lines. So, basically kind of, to conclude, our main objective is always just to provide, amazing moments for guests across their stay and to make the experience as memorable as possible. And the goal there is to retain guests and to have them leaving the unit, having spent an amazing time there and also with some memorable experiences. So I'd love to collaborate, if there's a project that you guys, think would be helpful for your business, like I said, we can customize everything from the design of the box to the contents within it. So would love to connect and speak a bit more about that.
Thank you, everyone, for these presentations. I thought it was extremely thoughtful, helpful, and punctual as well. We finished right on time. And I'd like to open a discussion now with a few items that I believe are of interest to our guests here. And I want to start with a general question to all of you. One thing that we've experienced throughout last year is a lot of domestic travel, much more than international, and you spoke of it as well. Do you feel the travel technology has adapted to that shift? And can you give me some ideas of solutions that emerged to cater to this trend? And happy to start with Lincoln if you have any thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, I can weigh in and maybe Dan can add to the topic. It's a big challenge, especially in the United States, because a lot of our job is trying to segment out different types of customers. And I'll use France as an example. The domestic traveler in France speaks French, wants a lower price point, and wants availability at certain times in locations that are non-touristy. Those identifiers are not necessarily present on the US domestic travelers. We have domestic travelers that still want to go to the Statue of Liberty and to mainstream destinations. So we've had to look for other signals in domestic travelers and really make sure that we're serving the right experiences to the right audiences based on those signals. So examples of those signals might be market familiarity. How many times has this person been to New York? If they're coming for the fourth time, they're probably not going to the Statue of Liberty. Price point for your home would also be a signal. Are you traveling in a group? Are you traveling on your own? We ask questions in our homes flow that says, are you here for leisure, business, or other? If you're here for leisure, you're probably a better fit for experiences. So we're deep in the data and always looking at those signals. And tailoring our supply to meet the domestic audience. The biggest signal has been price. I think the domestic audience in general is willing to pay a little bit less. And then we're looking at a multitude of other signals beyond that. Dan, anything you'd add to that?
I think on your specific point, Lincoln, you covered the majority, and we face a very unique challenge in the experiences business on like domestic travel and how different that looks. Whereas there are still niches that you need for domestic travelers in the stays business, but I think it's really amplified in the experiences business and what people want to do on trip. I think there's a really simplistic tech solution that people have found too in just moving to events like this. So our hosts, they pivoted from offline experiences, delivering experiences offline to people to delivering those same experiences online. And while it's not really a huge tech solution, just move in front of a screen and trying to deliver a concert or a cooking class or any of these things in front of a screen. It's taken some kind of entrepreneurial skills from our hosts to do that. So yeah, I think Lincoln covered most of the points.
That's a really good point, Dan. It's really hard to engage an audience on Zoom, as we all know here. And that's a skill that's a lot of our hosts have had to learn over the last 6 months. And some of them are amazing at it at this point.
Steve, Ryan, Nick, anything you'd like to add to that point?
Happy to jump in here. So for us, a little bit different from Airbnb, but further to Lincoln's point there, I mean, price is a big thing right now, and it's having an offering that's kind of matches that, and it's technology driven. So for us here, typically accommodation spaces sell their rooms overnight. That's the common time in which rooms are sold. We quickly pivoted to putting a portion of our inventory or dedicating a portion of our inventory to what we call the Annex Today program. So think of it as your work from anywhere office space for Torontonians, locals, to break up the monotony of COVID, or simply working at the kitchen table no longer works. But in that vein, we're also introducing technology that makes that far more easy than going and doing this in a much larger box hotel. So you show up, it's high-speed Wi-Fi, it's automatic connectivity, seamless access. You have everything disposable at your fingertips. So there's nothing you need to learn. You have it all there at the kind of your own control. It's on your phone. So.
Got it. And a question that I think is relevant for both Ryan and Steve. I think a lot of our hosts are trying to think of how to balance the contactless experience with still providing that human touch, that engagement that is now virtual. Can you comment on specifically on Ryan, how do you do that at the Annex, still continuing to provide that human touch? And Steve, you also talked about it, and I'd love to hear your perspective.
Sure.
I'll kick it off here. So as I mentioned earlier, technology is not meant to replace the guest experience. If anything, it's there to enhance and pass on kind of labor savings and things like that directly to the guests. So specifically for us here at the Annex, it's little things. If it's 5:08 at night, it's a simple text message. It's a repeat guest. We know they enjoy a specific wine. It's, hey, Baird, welcome back to the Annex Hotel. Thank you for staying with us again. Please open your door. There's a bottle of your favorite wine. Let us know what you think. So it's adding in those elements of personalization without it needing to be traditional. So we're able to accomplish that by having direct communication with our guests via text messaging. So that is a technology that doesn't necessarily exist for all hosts or in all accommodation spaces, but what it allows you to do is really personalize the experience. And for a lot of people, it's new from the guest side.
Technology can only take you so far. And I think people also get a bit carried away in terms of, we're going to basically replace ourselves because we're going to have so much technology. It's going to be so efficient, and it's going to solve so many problems. And I think Ryan touches on a lot of good points there around that personalized bespoke stay is huge. And I think that's why when you are implementing technology into your property, you need to really think about a mindset of less is more, and whatever you do decide on, it has to deliver impact, and it also has to deliver that unique personalized experience, because really that's what sets operators apart, right? Though that example of having that favorite bottle of wine waiting for you in your room, I mean, that technology enables that stuff, but technology can't deliver that. And so I think that repurposing our resources internally, employees who are now moving off of a front desk only job and now more of a generalist job where they are in charge of almost air traffic control, people coming in, people leaving, people looking. That's really where we see that amalgamation between technology and human, and really that's where the synergy is.
Thank you. Nick, you've managed to capitalize on two new personas that we've been seeing a lot of, the digital nomads and the work from anywhere trend. Can you elaborate on what are we seeing with this trend? What should hosts be looking for, and how you've managed to give them a better experience?
Yeah, so we've definitely seen that a lot of people are traveling. I mean, Lincoln's a good example. I'm a little jealous that he's in Mexico City right now, but I think a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Sort of seeing the good parts of what the pandemic can offer for those lucky enough to take advantage of it. And what we try to do with that is to bring a little bit of sort of comfort and familiarity to the new space that they'd be in. So there's a lot of exciting things about traveling and living in a new city for an extended period of time, because a lot of times, folks are going for over 2 weeks to new places. And we find that, by providing some, base level of amenities and some nice welcoming gifts, people are able to kind of settle into their new environment with a little bit of less kind of friction, sort of picking up and moving. We were able to kind of soften that a little bit and make that a more smooth transition. And then in terms of work from home employees, I mean, that's become actually a big part of our business as well. Is we work directly with a lot of businesses and, kind of, help them to cater to their employees with appreciation gifts, recognition gifts, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of sort of crossover between both the travel aspect and also what companies are doing to kind of take care of their people.
Thank you, definitely. Lincoln, we were talking a lot about the trends we see in bookings, last minute booking, longer stays. Can you share a little about the trends you're seeing in experiences, and specifically what's particularly popular now? What should we be looking for?
Yeah, so a couple of trends on the experiences side. Number one, and I mentioned it briefly, is safety first. Guests and hosts first wanted to know what protocols we were implementing, where we were opening and closing. So providing clear messaging about a very dynamic global situation was not easy. Navigating cancellations, explaining, mask requirements, group size control. So that was the first wave was how do we answer these questions in a thoughtful and healthy and safe way. Number two, I would say, is rural and nearby experiences. Nearby would be the Catskills relative to New York, or Joshua Tree relative to LA. Those are some of our biggest corridors in the world right now. Previously, we were very much an urban dominated business. That is no longer the case. Last minute booking was mentioned in the question. That has always been the case on Airbnb experiences, but it's even more true now. We have people that have planned the trip 2 days before and just show up, and then they come across a horseback riding experience that's interesting to them, and they book it 6 hours before the event. In terms of categories, outdoor experiences have really ruled the day over this past year. I'll also mention food and drink. Food and drink has done quite well. I think a lot of people are exploring their culinary interests and inclinations at this moment. Our top online booked experience is a drag queen brunch hosted in Portugal. They have had unprecedented success, and companies, groups, schools around the world are booking that one over and over again. In terms of our in-person experiences, I don't know what our current top experience is, but my bet is it's definitely outdoors, and it's likely in boating or water sports. Boating tends to be more expensive, and so if they have a really streamlined business, they've had a lot of success over these last couple months, especially during the summer. Just another trend, a lot more private booking. When experiences first launched, we really prided ourselves on bringing people from all types of backgrounds together. And we believe that we can provide the same level of belonging for a private booking. But that interaction is much more between the host and the group and within the group. So it's a little bit different, but a shift we're seeing both on online experiences and in-person experiences. One just note on online experiences, we've seen incredible product market fit with groups and teams. So companies that want to book out online experiences to bring their teams together, schools that are on vacation and want to find a way for classes to come together, really at all levels. We have elementary schools booking, we have grad schools booking, and then we also just have families or groups of friends. That's been a fantastic fit for online experiences.
Great feedback. Daniel, we've been talking about guest experience, and you gave some very helpful tips during your presentation. Can you try to really elaborate on how you link improved guest experience with more revenue? Can you give some tips to our audience?
Yeah, thanks, Farid. I think the question is, it's a great question to ask on the back of our presentation, because I think we've shown some ways to monetize improving guest experience. And I think that's not just us who have shown those ways. Also, Nick has shown ways to really monetize your guest experience. I think ultimately it all starts with looking at what guests want and trying to spot those gaps. So you can see that through one-to-one conversations with your guests. You can see that through reviews, and OTAs like Airbnb can also see that through reviews. We can see exactly what guests want just based on what they are saying to us. I think the second and maybe the tougher part of that then is, how do you monetize? And the majority of ways to monetize is just by partnering with people who can offer that service that guests are missing, whether that be a welcome box that Nick could offer, whether that's an experience that people want to do on trip, or whether that is just something else that they are missing in their property. I know that I've stayed in Airbnbs where I've received a bottle of wine when I enter the Airbnb that has a small note that says, hey, this comes from this local winery. If you'd want to buy a case or a bottle of this, go to this link. That link is an affiliate link that leads me to the winery's website, and the host will receive a commission for if I buy those bottles of wine. So I think one is, what do my guests want? If guests leave good reviews about me leaving a bottle of wine, awesome. How do I now monetize this? Is there someone locally I can partner with? Or is there a company that is already doing this and offering this that I can partner with?
Thank you so much. I have many more questions, but I really want to ask the questions that we received from our audiences. And I'll start with a question from Jean to Ryan. Ryan, do you often update your traveler persona as you learn more and evolve?
Yeah, so we've been answering some of these questions live throughout the course of the conversation, but for the rest of the audience, absolutely. I think going into kind of any brand building exercise, experience building exercise, there are certain personas in mind when building something that will quite often change, but the hospitality industry is one that is able to very quickly pivot. So I think what we've discovered over the last 12 months is that we've actually been able to probably tailor to a much wider ranging demographic than originally anticipated, just based on the ease of use of things and people discovering what it means to have a technology enabled experience.
Great, thank you. And Nick, a couple of questions for you. One thing is, do you think that these experiences will continue past COVID? Is that something that you see staying on, and how? And people also wanted to ask of a price range for your boxes. I don't know if you feel comfortable answering it now, or we can just send a response later.
Sure. So first of all, in terms of what we see going forward with experiences, I mean, so with a lot of the businesses we work with, I think it's going to be somewhat similar from a travel perspective, and that is, not everybody's going back to the office 100% on whenever the vaccine is fully distributed. I think there's going to be a portion of people who are working from home and a portion of people who are in the office, and maybe over the next couple of years that goes back to 100% in person, but most likely not. And I bring that example up because I think it's going to be sort of similar with Airbnbs, with short-term rentals, hotels, et cetera, where there's going to be people who are going into their units with the goal to be as much interacting with the city and being out and seeing people. But I do think that there will be some overall just that shift in dynamics in terms of some people who are going to be more geared towards going to a different place, but not necessarily contacting that many people. So I think it remains to see what those sort of percentages will look like, but certainly from the research and people that we talk to, there's going to be sort of a percentage of people who do both. And in terms of price points, so the boxes that you see on our website at getwelcomebox.com, which are kind of our standard, easy to order, get shipped out once you purchase them, those range from $9 up to, I believe, $13 or $14 via our website. And then for some of these more curated experiences, it's sort of all over the map. I know someone asked about the cocktail boxes. Those for sort of a standard cocktail box, call it like a enhanced gin and tonic, would be around $30 for 2 cocktails that would be sent within the box. And then up to craft cocktails, which have upwards of 7 or 8 ingredients, would be around $50 a box for those.
Thank you. Steve, a question for you from the audience. Can you expand a little on the features you're proposing to use, like digital concierge and energy control and so on? And what would be the best automated systems that you think a host should consider first?
Yeah, so we've actually recently launched a system, an operating system called Operto Connect. And that was on one of my slides, but just to kind of bring you back to that, it was really about creating what we call portals. So a guest portal, so managing everything with the guest stay from the time you, again, book to the time you leave the property. The teams portal, so your housekeeping and maintenance, and then the owner portal, so that they can sort of monitor what's going on in the property as well. And then really tying the IoT into that. So that is obviously keyless entry, noise and occupancy monitoring, which is big. And I know that there's a lot of countries that are mandating that sort of those sort of technology solutions because of too much partying that's happening. So noise and occupancy, and then also on the comfort side, so temperature setbacks, thermometers, basic in-home or in-room comfort. So those are the main ones that we work with. But again, what we try to do with our partners is, okay, not all those solutions are necessarily relevant for every property. So we want to make sure that it's a bespoke solution that we're offering in each instance. So it's, again, work with the provider, understand the guest journey, and then put those technology solutions in, which makes sense. The other nice thing about IoT is that it's an ever-evolving space. So the things that are in the market right now, there'll be a whole raft of new things next year. So we're always looking for different technology providers who can offer devices which actually add a huge amount of value to the guest experience, but not just clutter it. And that's, for us, is the main thing when we're considering what we want to support and put into the ecosystem.
Thank you. I want to end with one question to Nick, because a lot of what we've seen last year was about resilience. And in your case specifically, you really had to pivot your business model to adapt to current needs. Can you say a few words of wisdom to the audience about how you handled COVID-19, and what would be the first thing to think about in this time of crisis?
Yeah, well, just to be in full transparency, we had about 95% of our subscriptions to our Welcome Box pause or cancel around, March or April. And the other 5%, we sent out emails to everybody basically saying, do you want us to pause your subscription? Most people said yes. So, we kind of went from, our regular kind of recurring revenue business model to basically down to, essentially zero in sales. And that, is kind of scary. And I feel like, in people's personal lives and businesses, a lot of people faced similar things, but it also gives you an opportunity to kind of look at what you're good at and also what you could be better at and where the opportunities are. And that's kind of for us, where we were able to kind of look at the landscape and say, hey, we're able to put together these really beautiful experiences and boxes. What can we do to make these sort of something that's relevant for people when they're not able to go outside and see people as much. And, similar to like the Airbnb experiences, I think the online portion of that is growing a lot. And that's where we thought, it could be a great thing to combine with our physical boxes and gifts. And that for us is, we've had as good a year as we ever did, before. So that was kind of a nice thing for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. That was amazing and inspiring, I think, to all of us. I'd like to thank our amazing panelists, Lincoln, Daniel, Steve, Ryan, and Nick. I think you provided great content and a lot of things to think about to our audience. I'd like to thank the audience for coming up. One thing I want to mention is that we're big believers in the industry coming back strong in 2021. And we are launching our live in-person conference, the Guestival, in September 22nd to 24th, 2021, and are already offering tickets to that event. And I am hopeful that we'll be able to see a lot of you there and see each other in person in many places and many locations throughout 2021. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us. Very fun.
Guys, thanks,
bye, everyone.
Cheers, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.